So in this video, I'm going to go through what kind of potential return on investment you could see when you're running Facebook ads or TikTok ads. So to do this, you need to use some sort of ROI or return on investment calculator. So I've actually created one that you can use. If you click the link in the description of this video, you can go to this page that you see here. And then on this page, you'll be able to use my potential ROI calculator. So this is just to give you a rough idea of what kind of results you could potentially see. Now, again, this is not a guarantee. As it says here, this is a potential ROI calculator. So all of these are estimates. As it says here, this is for illustration purposes only. Results will vary depending on your niche, targeting, ad performance, sales performance, and hundreds of other variables. So this is just to give you a rough idea of what you could expect when you plug in your numbers into this. So what you can do is on this page, you can go to adjust estimates and you can change the numbers to whatever would match your business best. So for example, for a lot of the financial advisors that I work with, the client value isn't $5,000. Usually the client value is a lot more than that. So usually the client value is going to be $15,000. Again, sometimes it could be even more than that. Sometimes it could be less. It just depends on how much they have in investable assets. But usually $15,000 is a typical amount that you could get from a new client. If you want to be a little bit more on the conservative end, you can maybe do $10,000. But especially if you're setting something like annuities where the commissions are usually pretty good with that, you should be able to make more than $10,000 per client. And I say that because we get a lot of clients that we work with that usually once they win their first client, that pays for their investment with us and then multiple months of advertising as well. So again, you can play around with the numbers. This is for you to play around with and see what kind of numbers you could potentially see. So I'm just going to give you some rough estimates from what we see with some other clients. But again, play around with this. You can be conservative or aggressive and you can see what kind of results you could get as well. So let's just say the client value is $10,000. Again, it could be more, but let's just use $10,000, a nice simple round number. Your cost per lead for other clients, we typically see it's going to be about $20 on average. And this is for someone that has a minimum of $100,000 in investable assets. So the more someone has in investable assets, the more expensive it is to generate a lead and generate an appointment. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, something else to keep in mind is that the less locations or the less states that you target people in, the higher the cost per lead and the higher the cost per appointment. So if you want to reduce your cost per lead and cost per appointment as much as possible, target as much of a wide location as possible. So we have the cost per lead here at $20. Again, that's the average. And then from that, let's bump the advertising budget up to $3,000. From that, you can expect to get about 7% of these leads to convert into appointments. So that essentially gives you a cost per appointment of $300. So you can see here with a $3,000 advertising budget, you could potentially get 10 appointments if your cost per appointment is $300 per appointment. And then from these 10 appointments, you could get, if your conversion rate is 25% from appointment into client, you could get 2 of those convert into clients. So that means from spending $3,000, if you look at the numbers here, if you do the math, you see that you could potentially get $20,000 in revenue. So that's a very good ROI. Now, if you want to be a little bit more conservative, you can start playing around with these numbers a bit more. So instead of maybe a 25% conversion rate, you could do a 20% conversion rate, right? Or a 15% conversion rate and just see how that changes the numbers. Now, you'll notice the numbers don't change a lot if you are only spending a little bit of money each month on ads, but the more that you spend, the more that you can see these numbers here have an effect here in terms of how many appointments and how many clients that you get. So let's say you wanted to get 31 appointments each month. So if you wanted to get 31 appointments each month, you'd be spending about $9,000 on ads. If your cost per lead is $20, and you convert 7% of those leads into appointments, that means you're going to be getting 31 appointments. And then if you convert 15% of those into clients, you're going to be getting 4 clients. And if one client is worth to you $10,000, you'd be getting $40,000 in revenue. So again, this is just for you to get a rough idea of what kind of results you could potentially expect depending on what your cost per lead is and your cost per appointment. Now, I mentioned that this is for someone that has a minimum of $100,000 in investable assets. If you wanted to go higher than that, let's just say you wanted to have a minimum of $500,000 in investable assets, your cost per appointment is going to also be higher. So the cost per appointment could typically range from $300 to $500. And then if your minimum is $1 million or more, then the cost per appointment goes even higher. So it's usually about $500 to $1,000 per appointment. And again, these are just estimates. This is what we see with other clients. There's lots of different variables. So the only way to know for sure what your cost per appointment will be is when you start running ads. So after you spend a few $1,000s on ads, let's say $3,000, you will get what your cost per appointment is. You will get what your cost per lead is. And then from the amount of appointments you get, I would recommend having at least 10 appointments in order to know what your appointment to close or appointment to client conversion rate would be. That would then give you the data for your close rate. Once you put these numbers into here, you can estimate what kind of results you can expect to see. So feel free to use this calculator and play around with it and see what kind of numbers you can expect. And as an added bonus, if you want to increase your results even more, if you want to get the best possible results, what I would recommend is not just running ads alone. I would recommend boosting your results by creating YouTube videos. So if you notice here, there's this little button here that says boost results with weekly YouTube videos. It is optional, but if you want to get the best results, it's what I would recommend. And that's because the clients that do both YouTube videos and run ads at the same time, they always get the best results. They get above average results. So if we click on this, you can see here that it boosted the amount of clients you got and the amount of revenue that you generated as well. And this is because when you create YouTube videos, it helps you with so many things related to running ads. It helps you lower your cost per lead and lower your cost per appointment, because if people see your YouTube videos and then they see your ad, it just means there's going to be a higher chance that that person will then convert into an ad. In fact, I have an example here that I can show you. So here is a screenshot from our tracking software that allows us to see exactly where our leads come from and what they do behind the scenes. So you can see that one of the leads that we generated, well, actually one of the appointments that we generated, he saw one of my YouTube videos. He clicked on that YouTube video, as it says here, he clicked on this video, but he didn't convert. And by convert, I mean he didn't convert into a lead or anything like that. He just exited the page. But then what was really interesting is Facebook saw this, and then Facebook retargeted that person and showed him one of my image ads. And then he clicked on that image ad, and then he opted in. And then he actually saw another image ad, and then he went to our blog because we track everything that people do. And then he opted in again, and then that's when he scheduled a call. This person actually did sign up as a client later on. So that's a side point. It doesn't really matter, even if he did or he didn't. The point that I'm trying to make here is that this person went on YouTube, and then a few minutes later, he saw one of our ads. And because he'd already seen us on YouTube, it just built up that trust and that familiarity, which increased the chances that he would then click on the ad and convert. And you can do the same thing for you and your business. If you create YouTube videos and then people see your videos and then see your ads, it increases the chances that they will convert. But that's not the only thing that it does. Not only does it reduce your cost per lead and your cost per appointment, but it also helps you increase your show-up rate, because what you can do is you can send people a link to your YouTube videos before the call. And if they start binge watching your YouTube videos, it just means that there's a much higher chance that they will actually show up to the call, because independent studies have found that the more content someone consumes before speaking with you, the higher the chances are that they will convert into a client and they'll actually be interested in working with you. So that's something else that you can do as well. And then on top of all of that, on top of all of those benefits, it helps you with your cost per lead, cost per appointment, with your show rate, and even your close rate. On top of that, creating the YouTube videos also generate leads and appointments for you and your business for free. So it's just insane all the value that you get and all the benefits you get from creating YouTube videos. The only downside is that it takes a little bit of time to create these videos. So it's not like when you run ads, you can just spend more money on ads, and it doesn't really take any time to spend more money on ads. You're just spending more money, and it's very automated. But if you can do both, if you can do ads and YouTube videos at the same time, it is definitely worth it, in my opinion. And remember, even though it does take some time to create the YouTube videos in the first place, once those videos are created, you've essentially created an asset for your business that you could use for months and years down the line. So yes, it will take some time to create the videos in the beginning, but once those videos are created, it doesn't take any extra time from you. So what you can do is you can start spending some time now creating those videos, building those assets, so that in a year or maybe even 2 years down the line, you don't have to create those videos anymore if you don't want to. But if you kind of see the results that you're getting from the YouTube videos, you might think, well, actually, let me create even more videos to get even better results. So the point is, the choice is yours. You can, if you want to just keep getting better and better results, you can just keep creating more and more videos and keep running more ads. But these two things, ads and YouTube videos, are what we find is working best right now, not only for my own business, but also for clients as well. So everything that we do, everything that I do in my business, it's the same thing that we do for our clients. So we pretty much practice what we preach. So that's why we recommend creating YouTube videos. And we also recommend running ads at the same time in order to get the best possible results. But anyway, that's just a side note, something to just keep in mind. But if you do want to try this calculator for yourself, just click the link in the description of this video. You'll go to this page, you can play around with the numbers and see what kind of results you could potentially get for you and your own business. And if you want our help in doing any of this for you, in actually setting up the system to generate leads, generate appointments, and actually help you optimize the results and get better results over time, then just click the link in the description of this video to schedule a call with us, and we can go through how it all works in more detail. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.